Hey guys, welcome back. So we started this video off with the intention of finding some oil leaks on the C220. Unfortunately, it didn't quite pan out that way. And we found the oil leak. Unfortunately, we found much bigger problems. Anyway, on with the video. So as you might be able to see if we can focus it in, down there we have a bit of damp on the front engine under tray, which is right next to the oil cooler, which we can see just down there. I don't think that's oil, that looks more like coolant to me, although our levels on a coolant is pretty bang on. The only other thing I can find, looking through, I'm going to have to drop the under trays off and see if there's any splashes on the under trays, but if we look down the frame rail down there, you can see it's blatantly an oil leak dropping down there, and the only thing I can see that looks slightly wet is if we can squeeze in under here, which is the cold air intake to the turbo here. So I might just nip that up and see if that stops that leaking and try and clean it up a bit so I can see if it does leak again. I can't see anything else blatantly obvious as to what's leaking. So I finally found a use for this bad boy. I think the last time I used this was about 4 years ago to adjust the idle screw setting on my motorbike carbs. But hey ho, worth owning it. It's a little bit turned. It's reassuring, at least we know it wasn't as tight as what it could be. So you get in under the cooling hoses. Now, too tight. Come on. One last little bit. There we go. We've probably got 3/4 of a turn on that, so I think that definitely could have been weeping. Fortunately, it's a bit hot at the minute, so I'm going to have to get my hands in to see if there's any splits in the pipes, but I'll check that once I drop the engine covers off.
8 hours later.
No! That's not good. Hey guys, so here we are 48 hours on, and who would have known that tightening a hose clamp would have caused this level of carnage? So as it turns out, tightening that hose clamp kicks off an issue with the DPF. And after speaking to a few people that are more clued up on DPFs than me, it turns out that if there is an issue with the DPF and there's not a good seal on the turbo, it can actually back pressure through the turbo, which is what it was doing. So it was reading false on the before and after sensors on the DPF. For anybody that don't know how DPF works, very simply, it is, I'll show you in a minute, it's a honeycomb structure within the DPF that gathers soot, and when that starts to fill, the pressure sensor before the DPF will be reading a higher pressure than the one after, and there's tolerances which each manufacturer allow, and if that tolerance, if the figure is out of sync with that tolerance, then it flags an issue with the diesel particulate filter. Now ordinarily it would do what's called a regeneration, which burns off all the soot within the DPF. Now there's a number of things that have to be right for that to occur, the regeneration, some of which is you have to have at least 1/4 to half a tank of fuel, which a lot of people don't. They run around with like 10, 15, 20 quid in the car. The other things are no particular errors with the car, no recorded codes or anything in the ECU. So I don't know why this stopped regenerating, possibly be down to the boost leak on the turbo, but it did, and as such the DPF filled up. The offender in question, so as I was mentioning before, it is a filter, it's got honeycomb structure, that's what traps the soot. So it was measuring 35 grams of soot. 35 grams isn't particularly high for a DPF. Speaking to the specialist earlier, he's seen up to 400 grams. So apparently Mercedes have got a very good fail-safe system to protect the engine, so it kicks the codes in early and puts it into limp mode. So luckily we caught it in time. Had to get under the car, drop the under trays off and remove the DPF. Not an easy process, I assure you, and made all the more difficult by this little clip on top of the unit. Now that clip, that secures some hard lines for the pressure sensors, and you've got about 20 mil of clearance above the DPF to try and get a spanner in to undo it, which is virtually impossible. So I actually ended up bending the clip out of shape to remove them lines. Put a call in to the guys at DPF Clean Team. They're actually based just up the road from me here, and they really came through. I dropped the unit off around about 11 AM this morning, picked it up at 2 PM. He confirmed there was 35 grams of soot in it. He's given it a thorough clean. It's back to within manufacturer tolerances, so we're good to refit it. Now the only thing we do have to do is we have to go into the ECU and change the long codes to tell it that it actually has a new DPF fitted, otherwise it'll try and regenerate a clean DPF, which means it's going to try and inject diesel into it, which is not ideal. A couple of things we need to take care of first. Both these clamps, they were seized, so that bolt sheared off, so I need to remove the bolt out of there and put a new one in. And this one, the head is completely wrecked, as you can see, completely rounded. So again, I'm going to remove that out of there. Hopefully I've got a bolt, same thread size, and replace that. For a reasonable amount of fettling, I've managed to replace that, cut off that side there with a grinder, because it was just completely solid, I couldn't shift it at all. And then I've put new bolts through each of these. Now you can buy a new fitting kit for a DPF off eBay. It's around about 30-35 quid, but I thought there's no point, it's only a few bolts, we can use what we've got. What I've also done here is remove the stupid hex bolt, the one that caused me all that aggro yesterday, and replaced it with just the same bolt of the same size thread. And that's what the hard line will clip into on top of the DPF. The next time we see each other, we'll be in there. Here we are, welcome to paradise. So this is the hard line that I was telling you about that goes up over the top of the DPF. That is the down pipe coming down from the cat. You can see the first pressure sensor there for the DPF. Now, what I've done is I've disconnected the exhaust from that bracket there, which I think was two 18mm bolts from memory. Might be 12s, I can't remember. I'll tell you when I put them back in. Disconnected the two retaining bolts for the DPF here in order to drop it down, and obviously disconnected the clamp on top of the DPF which attached that hard line. It's not a difficult job. Accessibility is a bit difficult, could probably done with a little bit more height, especially given my size on the ramps, but obviously with this all the bolts are seized, which made the job even harder. So I'm just going to put that DPF into place and get it bolted up and be back in a second. Right, so here we are, everything back together. There, 12mm bolts. That was 19, and obviously I've changed these are going to be different on yours, but you can see everything's nipped up. I'm missing one of the 12mm on the exhaust bracket for the gearbox mount. No doubt that'll turn up when we move the car off the ramps. Let's see. Hey guys, so we're down off the ramp. Didn't find the nut I was looking for, typical. I mentioned before about resetting the ECU to let it know it's got a new DPF so it doesn't try and regenerate it. So my Carista system, which I use, doesn't allow me to reset the actual DPF. It'll let me do a regeneration, which is not what we want to do at the minute. So I'm going down to see a pal of mine that's got his own garage to use his Ortex system to reset the DPF. Full level of diesel particulate filter, 121.54.
Yeah, which is percent.
So it has to be under 200.
But it showed 7.2 grams ash content, quarter of a gram.
So that should be in the regeneration range.
Yeah, oh easily. It's normal operating range, that is.
So there's no values in there that should trigger the light to come back on?
No. Could be it did it yesterday while it's establishing itself. Yeah. At the moment, the back pressure in the DPF is 0.004.
So that's the differential
bar.
pressure between the two sensors.
Exactly. So
I think tolerance is about 0.5, isn't it?
It's just blowing through basically at that point. That's barely measurable. Yeah, its ideal is less than 14 grams at the moment. It's 7.2.
Happy days.
Which is what you'd see normally anyway, really. When you're just tooting around. Distance that's correction of soot level 170,000 kilometres.
Because we're finding out the mileage is fudged on the vehicle.
Oh no. I had a Skoda in, the Skoda room once, and they'd bought it from the auctions, were about for a warranty issue, and we plugged it in, and the stored mileage in it was like 180,000 mile, and it got 52,000 on the clock.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Thing is though, like, that's the problem with clocking a vehicle, isn't it? It doesn't lie. You look deep enough, you will find the original mileage.
Oh, yeah. 170,000 kilometres is 105,000 miles.
So that's bang on.
So it's literally done a regen. What is it? 179.64. Last time it did its last correction. Yeah, 106,232 miles.
So 600 mile ago.
Yeah.
Which coincides with me saying that my legs got warm when I got out of the car.
Yeah.
So it definitely regen. So
yeah,
I can't understand why that soot accumulation happened so quickly.
Yeah. Could have been from off that pipe or something like that. It's God knows. It's done 14 regens in its life.
I suppose the only other thing is run it now and see whether we get the light back on.
That's it, because going to this, it's the thing's clear as anything. It's just blowing through with no back pressure. And you're well under tolerance. You're at half your tolerance for your soot content. So, as you can see from the diagnostics we just ran, the DPF is now performing well within tolerances. I think we're at, from memory, you'll tell me looking at the video, but no doubt, I think we're at about 50% of max soot accumulation. It's well within tolerances to perform regeneration next time around anyway, but straight away there's no warning lights on the dash. The car's actually pulling a lot better. You can hear the turbo spooling up properly. So hopefully that has solved the problem. It's only time will tell. Let's see how it goes. So here we are, a right sweaty, horrible mess. So I've just managed to get the under trays back on. Well, you can see under there. That's all back as it should be. Finally, in the words of the great Victor Meldrew, I don't bloody believe it. After putting all the under trays back on, found that on the driveway. Nowhere near where I was working on the car. Never mind. So a couple of shout outs. One to the DPF clean team. They've really pulled it out of the bag. A couple of hour turnaround. They're a Hinckley based company. I'll put the details below. But I dropped it off to their unit. They turned it around within a couple of hours. £190 plus VAT. It's a lot cheaper than some of the prices I've got quoted, even for on-car cleaning. The other shout out is to Dave Aspie of Aspie Automotive. He's looked after my vehicles for absolutely years, probably the last 15 years. I've had some really high performance cars in that time, and he's the only guy I trust for major work. Mobile mechanic, servicing Nuneaton and Warwickshire area. Again, pop his details in the description, hit him up. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.